All right, last one. Yay! We're very excited. Dr. Akiyama from Albert Einstein College of Medicine is going to talk to us about decreasing HIV prevalence and HCV community viral load among people who inject drugs in Kenya.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. It looks like I'm the closer. It's baseball season right now, so excuse the analogy. So I'm going to be taking a zoomed out view of a national population level analysis for decreasing HIV prevalence and HCV community viral load among people who inject drugs in Kenya. And we're going to talk about some of the harm reduction strategies and antiviral strategies in terms of treatment, but that there are still regional disparities and gender disparities that are persistent currently. I'd like to start by thanking our participants as well as our incredible study team, many of whom are here today. Those are the disclosures. So bloodborne infection surveillance among people who inject drugs is really critical to assessing differential subgroup exposure and the impact of interventions like NSP, ART, and DAAs. In Kenya, previous HCV and HIV-focused studies among people who inject drugs identified differences in prevalence by gender and region. So our study, as outlined by Hannah already and earlier today by Lindsay, we recruited 3,100 approximately people who inject drugs from 17 NSPs, predominantly from the coastal region, almost half, followed by over a third from Nairobi, and the remainder from Western region. And for this analysis, we used an RDS-weighted HCV and HIV prevalence by region and gender and compared that to prior 2016 estimates to evaluate changes following scale-up of these services, harm reduction, ART, and DA therapy. So you can see at the national level, it was actually quite welcome news that the antibody prevalence was quite static. There's a tiny bit of an increase, but confidence intervals overlapping. In Coast, the antibody prevalence was stable, which was also good news. We did see in Nairobi, though, that the antibody prevalence had increased significantly. So that's a cause for concern and something that should be focused on at the program level. But then additional to the antibody prevalence, we also saw that the national HCV viremia, the community viral load, had decreased from 81% down to 62%, which was great news, and evidence of active DAA treatment. And I will say that we've treated, under the guidance of Mercy Nyako, who's sitting in the front, approximately 500 people, and this was sort of midway into that treatment. So we expect that the community viral load has actually decreased even further. At the national level, in terms of HIV positivity and regionally in Coast and Nairobi, we saw decreases across the board. So also good news, still further work to do, but the very progressive introduction of harm reduction in Kenya in 2013 and 2014 has averted and really bent the curve on HIV infection among people who inject drugs, which is amazing. Drilling down further beyond the regional level to the county level, you can see, I'm going to really kind of zero in on the Coast, which has the highest prevalence of hepatitis C. And I'm going to try and toggle back and forth. And you can see that in Kilifi County in North Coast, that the prevalence in that county is quite static. But in Mombasa, we did see a decrease in the antibody prevalence. One thing that these data are important to help in terms of flagging regions for service delivery, in Kwale, we saw an increase, a pretty dramatic increase in antibody positivity, which we hypothesize is related to a service disruption due to withdrawing of funding, not the most recent withdrawal of funding, but one that happened prior to this year. And we suspect that that led to increased seroconversion and HCV antibody positivity and expansion in Kwale County, so something that's definitely of concern. Again, the HCV viremia ranged from about 50 to 60%, so evidence of active treatment that is clearing the community viral load in Kenya. So great news, but still more work to do. Zeroing in on the topic of this session, so in the differences between females and males, we said that the HCV antibody positivity was static, but you can see that among females there is an increase. Confidence intervals are overlapping, so it's a signal that there's increased antibody prevalence among females at the national level. Males, though, were static. So again, we've seen this over and over in these great sessions today, that females are at greater risk of acquisition of infectious diseases like HIV and hepatitis C, and it needs to be addressed through programs. And in Nairobi, it was actually quite stark, increase from 12% to 26% in terms of the HCV antibody positivity, so really pronounced finding there. Our survey in the 2024 data also included Western region, whereas the 2016 data did not. And one very pronounced finding, again, you can see decreases in HIV positivity across the board from 2016 to 2024, but we were able to uncover the HIV prevalence among among females who inject drugs in the Western region, and the prevalence of HIV was about 33%, so extremely high there, and possibly indicative of endemic transmission that has been going on in the Western region, and a possible bridge population that's really important to focus on. So taken together, ART and harm reduction, and more recently the availability of direct-acting antiviral therapy have prevented widespread increases in prevalence of infectious diseases. The decreasing HIV prevalence and HCV community viral load is promising, but more work is needed given the antibody positivity is sort of static and plateaued, and there is an increased regional HCV antibody prevalence in some regions and counties. Higher HIV and HCV prevalence among women highlight a need for, and this is really the take-home message, I think, of the amazing sessions that we've had today, that client-centered, integrated, gender-based, trauma-informed care is critical to integrate into our programs to make sure that we're catering to women who use drugs. I'd also like to shout out Kennedy from the University of Bristol, the data he presented on the most recent wave of service disruptions, and this is what can happen with, and hopefully we can avert through teamwork and partnerships and being strategic to avert these service disruptions and increases in new HIV and HCV infections, and Kenya is at risk for increased seroconversion amidst these cuts. So a lot of work to do there as well. I will just thank this is another pre and post. So this is our study team in 2016, and our study team, some members of our study team, including Euphrasia, who's one of our amazing research assistants, who's been doing a lot of the work on recruitment and enrollment. And thanks so much.